One such mystery is Enoch. Genesis tells us, Enoch walked with the Elohim, and then he was not, for Elohim took him. The phrase, walked with the powerful ones, carries profound implications, and the Book of Enoch delves deeply into what this walking entailed. It unveils details that are both astonishing and thought-provoking, providing a glimpse into a world beyond human comprehension. The Book of Enoch also introduces the concept of 200 Watchers, beings who descended to Earth, mingled with humanity, and created a hybrid lineage. Their union with human women led to the birth of giants, a narrative echoed in Genesis 6, but also found in the myths and histories of cultures worldwide. These shared stories raise a compelling question. Why do so many ancient traditions recount similar events? And yet, the mysteries don't end with ancient texts. They extend into the living traditions of our modern world. The tale of the Mami Wata, a modern mystery with ancient roots. In 1984, on the shores of Anloga, a coastal town in the Volta region of Ghana, a young woman, just 26 years old, mysteriously reappeared after being missing for 3 long years. When she walked back into her family home, her relatives embraced her with a mixture of joy and bewilderment. She had vanished without a trace, and now, here she was. Her family was desperate for answers. Where had she been all this time? What had happened to her? Why had she not contacted them during those lost years? The story she shared left her family stunned and deeply unsettled. The young woman revealed that she had been abducted while walking on the beach. She described being taken to a distant place where she was held captive for 3 years. During this time, she was forced to bear children. Yet, the most chilling part of her account was still to come. When pressed further, she disclosed that her captors had not been human. She claimed she had been taken to an underwater base and held by beings known as the Mami Wata. These entities had taken her for the sole purpose of procreation. Who are the Mami Wata? Across the western coastlines of Africa and throughout the Caribbean, the Mami Wata tradition thrives. The stories take different forms depending on the region and are called by different names, but at their core, they share the same haunting themes. The Mami Wata are often described as strikingly beautiful, usually appearing as female, and are said to abduct people who wander too close to the water's edge. To a Western ear, these tales might sound like myths of mermaids or the Greek legends of sirens, enigmatic beings who lured sailors to their doom. Some might dismiss these accounts as cautionary folklore, meant to warn young men against temptation or to keep people from wandering too close to dangerous waters. But what sets the Mami Wata tradition apart is its age and persistence. These stories are not new. They stretch back thousands of years, long before the term Mami Wata was coined. The recurring motif of abductions, of people taken away and forced into interactions with otherworldly beings, has endured across countless generations. Such tales invite us to ask, are they mere legends, or could they be rooted in some shared memory of actual events? The story of the young woman from Anloga was no mere convenience. It wasn't told to gain attention or sympathy. In fact, it achieved the opposite. For someone to come forward with such a tale, knowing the skepticism and ridicule it would provoke, suggests a certain sincerity. Think about it. What could she possibly gain from sharing such a story? Would it help her reintegrate into her community? Hardly. Would it make finding a job easier? Unlikely. More often than not, stories like hers result in ostracization, disbelief, or even institutionalization. Despite all this, she chose to share her truth. Stories like hers and countless others throughout history challenge us to consider the possibility that our world is far stranger than we dare to imagine. What do you think? Could these ancient and modern accounts be pointing to something real, something we've yet to understand? Or are they simply reflections of human imagination and cultural storytelling? We approach this narrative with respect and curiosity. Its incredible depth and ancient origins suggest it deserves our serious attention. In fact, it's part of an even bigger and far older story, one that stretches back to the foundations of human history. And today, we're going to talk about the fascinating Book of Enoch. The origins of the Book of Enoch are deeply rooted in Hebrew tradition. Scholars generally agree that its various sections were written between the 2nd and 3rd centuries BCE. However, it's widely believed that these writings encapsulate oral traditions, stretching even further back in history. The book itself bears the name of Enoch, a key figure mentioned in the Bible. According to Genesis, Enoch was the father of Methuselah, who in turn fathered Lamech, the father of Noah. This lineage places Enoch in the very heart of humanity's earliest biblical history. What's especially intriguing is that Enoch may be the world's first recorded abductee, though likely a willing one. One section of the book describes how Enoch was given a year's notice before being taken away from his family. If we turn to Genesis chapter 5, we find a brief mention of this moment. It states, "Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away." But is that all there is to it? Some argue this verse has been mistranslated. My book, Escaping from Eden, explores this idea and suggests that the text isn't just about God. The original Hebrew word used here is Elohim, which is often translated as God. However, Elohim is actually a plural form and takes plural verbs. A more accurate translation might read, "Enoch walked with the Elohim, walked with the powerful ones, and then he was no more, because the powerful ones took him away." This subtle but crucial shift changes the entire interpretation of Enoch's story. The Book of Enoch elaborates on what walking with the powerful ones meant, providing astonishing detail. It's divided into several sections, each revealing a unique aspect of Enoch's experiences. In the Book of Watchers, for example, Enoch tells of human women being abducted and impregnated by celestial beings who descended from the sky. These beings, called the Watchers, were said to be angels who left their heavenly stations to interact with humanity. The narrative also describes Enoch's own journeys through the cosmos, where he uncovers hidden truths about other dimensions and the mysteries of the universe. Then there's the Book of Parables, which dives deeper into Enoch's journeys and recounts divine judgments. It speaks of God's condemnation of the Watchers and outlines plans for humanity's redemption. Within this section, there's also a promise of a coming Messiah, a heavenly figure who will restore balance to the world. The Book of Heavenly Luminaries is yet another fascinating part of the text. In this section, Enoch is guided by an advanced being called Uriel, who takes him on a tour of the galaxy. Whether this journey was physical, astral, or symbolic, it's clear that Uriel reveals profound knowledge of astronomy and the laws governing the cosmos. Enoch, based on his ancient geocentric worldview, describes these celestial phenomena as though the Earth were flat and covered by a dome-like canopy. And yet, his descriptions still resonate with advanced scientific ideas. The motif of a human being taught astronomy by a higher intelligence isn't unique to Enoch's story. In the Hebrew tradition, we find parallels in the account of the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel too describes an extraordinary experience, one that some interpret as eerily similar to modern-day reports of UFO encounters. Ezekiel recounts being lifted by what he describes as a flying craft, piloted by a human-like figure. This craft carries him over the cities of ancient Mesopotamia, before finally setting him down in Tel Aviv. Scholars have traditionally assumed Ezekiel's account was a vision, but could he have been describing a real, physical experience? Something we might today call an alien abduction. Both the Book of Enoch and Ezekiel's writings belong to a genre known as apocalyptic literature. The term apocalyptic doesn't just refer to the end of the world. It signifies revelations, moments where the writer witnesses something so otherworldly that they struggle to interpret it. These are glimpses into realities that seem beyond human comprehension. What did Enoch really see? Was he describing spiritual truths, encounters with advanced beings, or perhaps both? The Book of Enoch invites us to wrestle with these profound questions, opening a window into an ancient worldview that continues to captivate our imaginations today. Enoch's story is not just a relic of the past. It's a reminder of humanity's unquenchable thirst for knowledge, connection, and meaning. And perhaps it's an invitation to look at the stars and ourselves with fresh eyes. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think about. At its core, Ezekiel's account simply reports what he saw and experienced. He clearly understood the significance of these events and wanted his readers to unpack their meaning. What's striking is that Ezekiel doesn't describe this as a vision. He provides detailed descriptions of where he was when this mysterious craft appeared, how it picked him up, where it flew him, the places he saw along the way, and where he was ultimately dropped off. He even shares the aftermath of the experience, stating that he was so disoriented that he couldn't speak for 7 days after being returned. 7 days of complete silence. Imagine the weight of what he had witnessed. What's even more fascinating is the interaction he has during this journey. Throughout the entire experience, Ezekiel is being flown around by a pilot whom he describes as like a human being or like a son of man. The pilot seems to be having deep conversations with Ezekiel about religion and politics, but Ezekiel is utterly captivated, not by the conversation, but by the craft itself. He can't stop marveling at what he sees. He describes the shiny, reflective metal of the structure, the intricate mechanisms of the wheels, and the translucent glass-like canopy. He hears roaring sounds as the craft moves, and you can sense his bewilderment as he tries to make sense of it all. What is this metal? How does it shine like that? How do these wheels work? And what is that sound? His awe is almost palpable. Ezekiel struggles to find the right words for what he's experiencing. He refers to the craft as YHWH's habitation, or the glory, simply because he doesn't have the vocabulary to describe something so foreign. Yet to the modern reader, his descriptions are astonishingly familiar. As we read his account with modern eyes, it's hard not to recognize what he's describing. We might not have all the answers, but we can certainly piece together a clearer picture of what he experienced. However, dismissing Ezekiel's account as merely a vision might cause us to overlook something far more profound. It's a tendency we often have, especially when stories like this challenge our worldview. When confronted with something that doesn't fit neatly into our understanding of reality, we sometimes plug our ears and ignore it, as if to say, "La la la, I can't hear you." Why? Because accepting these accounts as real forces us to question deeply ingrained beliefs, such as the assumption that humanity is alone in the universe. Ezekiel's extraordinary claims aren't isolated. They find parallels in other ancient texts and mythologies. For instance, Hindu scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita describe flying and spacefaring craft known as vimanas. Ancient Egyptian and Mesoamerican art depict similar otherworldly machines. The Book of Enoch takes these accounts even further. While Ezekiel's journey seems confined to the lands of ancient Iraq, Enoch describes travels far beyond Earth, journeys that extend across the galaxy. Guided by an entity named Uriel, who is clearly described as non-human, Enoch witnesses the cosmos in ways that leave us wondering about the boundaries of his experience. Was he physically traveling? Was he seeing visions? Or was he perhaps engaging in something akin to astral projection? The answer isn't clear, but what is evident is that Enoch's writings describe astronomical knowledge far ahead of his time. Enoch writes about the movements of stars and celestial bodies, their relationships to one another, and the vast expanse of the heavens. This theme of astronomical knowledge may seem unusual for the Bible, but it resonates with similar narratives found in mythologies across the world. Think of the Mayan calendar, the Aztec sun cycles, the precise celestial knowledge of the Sumerians and Egyptians. All of them were civilizations that somehow possessed advanced understanding of astronomy. How could they have obtained such precise knowledge thousands of years ago? One of the most striking examples comes from the Dogon people of Mali. When anthropologists studied their traditions and spoke with their shamanic elders, they were astonished to learn about the Dogon's detailed knowledge of the Sirius star system. The Dogon elders described Sirius not as a single star, but as a three-star system, a fact that modern astronomy didn't confirm until the 20th century. When asked how they had this knowledge, the elders simply said, "We were taught by people from Sirius C." Their accounts echo a pattern found in countless ancient mythologies: precise astronomical knowledge embedded in stories handed down over millennia. This phenomenon, the encoding of advanced information within ancient texts and oral traditions, raises profound questions. How did these cultures acquire knowledge that aligns with modern discoveries? Were they simply brilliant astronomers? Or could their claims of contact with otherworldly beings hold more truth than we're willing to acknowledge? Whether we're reading the Book of Enoch, studying the intricate star charts of the Mayans, or marveling at the Dogon's insight into Sirius, it's clear that something extraordinary lies at the heart of these ancient accounts. And as we return to Ezekiel's writings, we can't help but notice echoes of these same patterns. Could his descriptions of YHWH's glory or habitation reflect an ancient encounter with advanced technology that shaped his understanding of the divine? Could his bewildering experience be part of a much larger story that connects humanity to the cosmos in ways we are only beginning to comprehend? These questions challenge us to reconsider what we think we know about the past, about our origins, and about the universe itself. The Book of Enoch and the Mystery of the Watchers. The Book of Enoch introduces a fascinating narrative, an ancient figure receiving knowledge from a non-human entity named Uriel. Uriel provides him with profound insights, even educating him about the solar system. But this is only the beginning of the extraordinary events described in the text. It recounts, in vivid and dramatic detail, the arrival of 200 Watchers on Earth. These Watchers, celestial beings, descend to our planet and disrupt the natural order. They begin abducting human women and fathering hybrid offspring. These offspring, while human in form, are far larger and more powerful than ordinary humans, a new kind of being. Interestingly, mythologies from cultures across the world seem to align with the Book of Enoch's account. Stories of abductions by beings from the sky, exiled to Earth, are found in many traditions. These parallels suggest a shared memory or understanding of events described in Enoch. Despite this fascinating connection, the Book of Enoch has not been included in the internationally recognized canons of Scripture for Judaism or Christianity. It's worth noting, however, that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church does include it in its biblical canon. This church tradition considers Enoch scripture, placing it alongside the other books of the Bible. The exclusion of Enoch from most biblical canons does not diminish its significance. After all, it is quoted word for word in the New Testament, specifically in the book of Jude. Jude not only references Enoch, but assumes that his audience is familiar with it. This suggests that, at least in the early Christian era, the Book of Enoch was widely read and respected. Even prominent early church fathers, such as Clement of Alexandria, referred to Enoch as if it were scripture. And many of the narratives found in Enoch are expansions or elaborations of stories from canonical texts like Genesis, Ezekiel, the Gospels, and other New Testament writings. For believers, this means the Book of Enoch is not something to fear or dismiss. Its themes and ideas are deeply rooted in the very foundations of Scripture. Take, for instance, the story of the Watchers coming to Earth, mating with human women, and producing giants. This is echoed in Genesis 6. But this is not an isolated story. Variations of it appear in cultures all over the globe. From Africa to India, from Greece to Sumeria, similar tales are told. They describe beings of another kind, celestial, otherworldly, descending to Earth and hybridizing with humans. The resulting offspring are often referred to as giants, titans, or Nephilim, depending on the tradition. In Western traditions, these accounts are often dismissed as myths or allegories. The Watchers and their actions are interpreted as symbolic or purely fictional. But other interpretations take these stories more seriously. Some see the Watchers not as spiritual entities, but as physical beings, similar to humans, yet different enough to produce hybrids when they interbred with humans. This raises significant questions. Who were these Watchers? Were they angels? Were they extraterrestrial beings? And what does it mean that they could physically interact with humans in such profound ways? The term angel doesn't fully explain what kind of beings they were. Angels are often thought of as purely spiritual, yet the Book of Enoch presents them as physical, tangible entities. They are described as coming from the heavens, descending to earth, and interacting with humans. They are similar enough to us biologically to produce offspring, yet different enough that these offspring are distinct, giants with extraordinary attributes. These beings are also described as possessing incredible abilities. They can travel vast distances with remarkable speed and might even move interdimensionally. They intervene in human affairs, often causing harm or chaos. By any modern understanding, these descriptions bear a striking resemblance to accounts of extraterrestrial encounters. In African traditions, such as those in Christian or shamanic communities, the Watchers are sometimes interpreted more literally. They are not merely spiritual beings, but concrete, physical entities. Some traditions even link them to beings like the Mamiwata, spirits or entities often described in African folklore. But what's fascinating is how consistent the core story remains across all these interpretations. Beings from the sky, descending to earth, interbreeding with humans, and producing something entirely new, something powerful, dangerous, and otherworldly. The Book of Enoch's accounts may challenge our understanding of biblical history and theology, but they also invite us to reconsider ancient stories we often dismiss as myth. Whether interpreted as angelic beings, extraterrestrials, or something entirely different, the Watcher's story continues to provoke deep questions about humanity's past, our place in the universe, and the beings who may have shared this world with us. Uriel and the Search for Truth. Investigations into ET encounters and ancient legends. There's an intriguing figure in the story, a non-human entity named Uriel, who appears to be the source of significant information, giving what some might call an edge to our understanding of mysterious phenomena. This story opens up an extraordinary window into the study of extraterrestrial encounters, a field that has long fascinated scholars, theologians, and scientists alike. Serious investigations into what has been called the ET abduction syndrome have been undertaken by prominent researchers. One such figure was the late Professor John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist and head of the university's clinical psychology department in the 1990s. At the time, the U.S. Department of Defense had commissioned Professor Mack to study the psychology of military personnel who reported close encounters with extraterrestrial beings. As Mack delved into these reports, certain patterns began to emerge. His research methodology was meticulous. He conducted supplementary sessions with subjects, ensuring they had no opportunity to rehearse or align their accounts. He later expanded his study to include civilian aviation professionals, pilots, and air traffic controllers who had documented similar experiences. His findings were groundbreaking. Mack concluded that these cases could not be dismissed as hallucinations or psychosis. Instead, they involved encounters with something undeniably real, phenomena that warranted further scientific examination. In 2009, this subject gained even more traction when Pope Benedict XVI called upon the Pontifical Academy of Sciences to convene a special colloquium. The gathering of 30 leading scholars and theologians explored the theological implications of contact with other civilizations. Among those presenting findings was Monsignor Corrado Balducci, one of the Vatican's top experts in paranormal phenomena and a leading exorcist for the Roman Catholic Church. Monsignor Balducci stated that the experiences reported by abductees and contactees were not psychotic episodes nor interactions with demonic forces, as some might have suspected. Rather, these individuals seemed to have encountered a completely different category of being, entities deserving of deeper, more rigorous investigation. This perspective opened up a new dimension of understanding, where theology, psychology, and science intersected in an attempt to grapple with a mystery far beyond human comprehension. But this wasn't the only area of interest. Decades earlier, the renowned astrophysicist Carl Sagan had identified another field of inquiry that demanded attention. In the 1960s, Sagan became captivated by ancient mythologies describing beings that seemed to bridge the gap between the human and the aquatic. One notable example is the Apkallu, a group of entities mentioned in Babylonian mythology and documented by a Greek priest named Berosus in the 3rd century BCE. The Apkallu were described as part human, part aquatic beings, a theme echoed in other cultural traditions across the world. For instance, in African folklore, there is the Mami Wata tradition, which speaks of water spirits with human-like features. Similarly, Caribbean myths and various indigenous legends from Asia to the Americas describe beings that combine human and aquatic traits. Despite these cultures having no direct contact with one another, the recurring imagery of such beings suggests a shared archetype or a possible universal experience. According to the myths, the Apkallu played a crucial role in shaping early human civilizations. They were said to have nurtured humanity, equipping our ancestors with foundational knowledge such as mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, tools that would propel human societies forward. One leader of the Apkallu, Oannes, is particularly noteworthy for his role in providing this advanced knowledge, setting humanity on its path toward civilization. Carl Sagan, while at Berkeley in 1962, explored these myths through a scientific lens. In a paper titled Direct Contact Among Galactic Civilizations by Relativistic Interstellar Spacecraft, Sagan argued that there was a statistical likelihood of Earth having been visited by advanced extraterrestrial civilizations at least once in historical times. On page 497 of his study, Sagan speculated that there could have been as many as 10,000 such visits, a staggering proposition. Sagan specifically highlighted the Babylonian legends of the Apkallu as a case deserving serious study. He proposed that these stories might point to encounters with an advanced, non-human, possibly extraterrestrial society. In 1966, Sagan collaborated with Ukrainian scientist Iosif Shklovsky on a book titled Intelligent Life in the Universe, where they further emphasized the importance of analyzing ancient legends like the Apkallu narrative. They argued that such myths could provide valuable clues about direct contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. The question remains, could the sudden emergence of civilization in ancient Sumeria, complete with sophisticated mathematics, complex astronomy, and civil engineering, be explained by intervention from an extraterrestrial source like the Apkallu? How did humanity, seemingly out of nowhere, leap from a primitive existence to the cradle of advanced society? These inquiries remain at the heart of ongoing debates about humanity's origins. While some dismiss these theories as speculative, others believe they hold the key to understanding a larger cosmic story. Whether through theological reflection, psychological investigation, or scientific scrutiny, the search for answers continues to spark curiosity and wonder. As we reflect on these ancient myths and modern investigations, one question stands out. Are we truly alone in the universe, or are there forces, both seen and unseen, that have shaped our journey in ways we are only beginning to understand? Streetscapes, banking systems, legal frameworks, culture, and literature. These are hallmarks of human civilization that represent an extraordinary leap forward for Homo sapiens. But how did we make such a massive jump? What explains this transformation? It seems that this question cannot be fully addressed without considering the possibility of external intervention. Could something or someone beyond our understanding have played a role? This idea finds resonance in the story of the Apkallu, figures from ancient Mesopotamian mythology, described as semi-divine beings who imparted knowledge to humanity. What's particularly intriguing is how closely their descriptions align with other ancient tales, such as those found in the mummy stories. Is it mere coincidence, or does it point to something deeper? But here's another question that gnaws at the edges of our understanding. What happens to people who vanish without explanation? In the United States alone, more than 500,000 people were reported missing in 2018. That year, 612,846 new cases of missing persons were registered. Some of these were tragedies of misadventure. Others, sadly, were tied to the horrors of human trafficking and violent crimes. Thankfully, the majority of these individuals were eventually found, alive or accounted for. But around 15%, an estimated 90,000 people, remain missing every single year. That's nearly 90,000 lives that just vanish into thin air. And what about the thousands of people who disappear in America's national parks? These cases are so unsettling that park authorities have been advised not to maintain official records of them. We're not talking about hikers who accidentally stray off a trail. We're talking about individuals who are in plain sight, mid-conversation, mid-activity, only to suddenly disappear. Imagine being at a baseball game and witnessing a person sitting next to you vanish in an instant. How do we make sense of such occurrences? Neither mythology nor modern science offers us an adequate explanation for this disturbing phenomenon. These stories should deeply unsettle us, more so than any report that merely challenges our worldview. And yet, instead of grappling with these mysteries, we often dismiss them. Monsignor Corrado Balducci and Dr. John Mack were among the few who took these experiences seriously, advocating for more rigorous study into such reports. They believed that these encounters, whatever they might be, deserve our attention, not our ridicule. Consider the Book of Enoch, one of the most fascinating texts from ancient literature. It tells of an extraterrestrial being named Uriel, who imparts advanced knowledge to humanity. Uriel educates people about the cosmos, humanity's place in the universe, the celestial realms of the powerful ones, and even the mechanics of the solar system. This theme of knowledge being given to humans by beings from the stars is echoed in many indigenous traditions across the globe. What's more, some of these narratives even come with physical evidence that lends surprising credibility to their claims. As someone who studies the world's mythologies, I find these accounts captivating and tragic. Tragically, we impoverish ourselves when we ignore or ridicule experiences that fall outside our narrow definitions of reality. As my book, Escaping from Eden, gained attention, I began receiving messages from people every day. They shared stories of close encounters, abductions, and experiences they'd kept secret for decades. These were stories they had buried deep inside, often out of fear of mockery. Many of these individuals describe life-changing events from their youth, such as a bizarre encounter at age 15, which they confided only to a close friend or spouse. For decades afterward, they told no one. "I haven't shared this with a single soul in 50 years, they often tell me. And why? Because of the ridicule, skepticism, and shame society heaps on those who dare to challenge its accepted norms. This must change. We need to listen, really listen, to the experiences of those around us. By doing so, we may discover that there is far more to our world than we have been willing to acknowledge." These stories challenge our perception of reality, yes, but they also expand it. In the Western world, we often frame such phenomena as purely psychiatric or as fabrications of the modern era, especially post-1950s. But that couldn't be further from the truth. These encounters are ancient. They are woven into the mythologies of nearly every culture, passed down through generations. And let's be honest, these are not the kinds of stories people fabricate to gain fame or fortune. Sharing these experiences often damages reputations rather than advancing them. People know they risk mockery, yet they share anyway. Why? Because the experience profoundly impacted them, and they need to process it. That's why I stand with John Mack and Monsignor Balducci in saying that we must approach these accounts with respect. These are not ordinary stories. They are encounters with a different kind of reality, and they demand serious study. The Book of Enoch, along with traditions like the African Mamiwata, offers a framework for understanding these experiences. They provide a broader, deeper context that spans cultures and millennia. We should not dismiss these stories as mere fantasy or delusion. Instead, we should view them as threads in a much larger tapestry of human experience, one that points to mysteries we have yet to fully comprehend. The time has come for us to listen, to open our minds, and to recognize that the universe may hold far more secrets than we have ever imagined. A mystery stretching back thousands of years. Could the concept of advanced knowledge truly be confined to the realm of fiction, or does it hint at something deeper, a reflection of prehistoric genius, a level of insight that seems extraordinary for early human civilizations. And why is the recurring theme of humans being guided, even tutored, by higher beings so common across Earth's indigenous cultures? Could it be more than myth? Could there be answers hidden in the testimonies of those who claim contact with extraterrestrial beings? Take, for instance, the story of a young woman from Logar, Ghana, who claims to have spent 3 years living among the enigmatic mummy beings. This theme is not isolated. What does it mean to be human? Could there be connections between such experiences and ancient legends like those of Oans and the Apkallu? These stories speak of monumental leaps in human evolution, guided by beings from beyond our world. It's fascinating to consider how these ancient narratives about humanity's progress intersect with modern reports of those who claim to have had close encounters with otherworldly intelligences. There are even stories of returnees, individuals who came back from such experiences, fundamentally changed. I've heard of cases where individuals, after their encounters, demonstrated heightened cognitive abilities. One such person came back with their mind bursting with advanced calculus, their notebook filled with complex equations they'd never studied before. This wasn't someone flaunting their transformation or claiming to be a genius. Often, people who undergo such experiences don't talk about them. Why? Because of the fear of being scrutinized, institutionalized, or turned into a mere subject of curiosity. Yet these cases are far more common than publicly reported. Such transformations align with a documented phenomenon studied by neuroscientists worldwide, acquired savant syndrome. This rare condition can occur after brain injuries, trauma, or central nervous system events, releasing extraordinary abilities that had previously lain dormant. Scientists describe it as a disinhibition of brain functions. Quietly, some returnees share that their encounters left them with a similar effect. Interestingly, this isn't a new idea. It's echoed in cultural traditions, like the Mami Wata stories of African and Caribbean cultures. In these tales, those abducted by these otherworldly beings are promised a return with greater intelligence and expanded consciousness. That transformation is part of the deal. How intriguing that this same theme, an encounter with higher beings resulting in a leap in intellect, appears in ancient narratives like the Book of Enoch. This text describes a world populated by non-human beings who interacted with early humans. To many in the Western world, this story might feel alien, even unsettling, as it challenges the familiar frameworks of mainstream religion. But for others, like the Dogon tribe of Mali, with their detailed knowledge of the Sirius star system, or the Cherokee people of North America, who speak of visitors from the Pleiades, or even those who hold to the Mami Wata traditions, such themes resonate deeply. For those who claim contact with the so-called mummy beings, these narratives feel strikingly familiar. They are not alone. Across time and geography, similar accounts have emerged, suggesting that this generation is far from the first to claim interactions with a non-human presence on Earth. What if, instead of dismissing these stories, we listened to them with respect and curiosity? What could we learn about humanity's place in the cosmos? What new insights might be uncovered if we were willing to consider their implications seriously? Take, for example, the Qumran caves near the northern shore of the Dead Sea. These caves, hidden in the rugged Judean mountains, housed an ancient religious community's most sacred treasures. Within these caves, centuries ago, they carefully stored papyrus scrolls and manuscripts, safeguarding knowledge they believed to be of immeasurable value. In 1947, a shepherd exploring the area threw a rock into one of the caves, only to hear the unexpected sound of pottery breaking. Intrigued, he investigated further and made one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The caves held a treasure trove of nearly 900 ancient manuscripts, including some of the most important religious and historical texts ever found. These documents opened a window into a world that had been hidden for centuries, illuminating the lives and beliefs of an ancient community. Might there be parallels between the wisdom safeguarded by the Qumran scribes and the knowledge claimed by those who recount contact with higher intelligences? Could humanity's oldest questions about who we are, where we come from, and where we're going be intertwined with stories, both ancient and modern? Perhaps by piecing together these narratives, we can uncover new dimensions of understanding. The real challenge is whether we are ready to listen. A context that stretches back thousands of years, a time shrouded in mystery and rich with untold stories. Could the theme of advanced knowledge be more than just fiction? Among the many ancient texts, one stands out as particularly enigmatic: the Book of Enoch. The earliest and most complete version of the Book of Enoch comes from Ethiopia. In fact, Ethiopia is home to the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, the one Christian tradition that still accepts the Book of Enoch as part of its biblical canon. This Ethiopian manuscript is divided into several sections, including the Book of Watchers, the Parables of Enoch, the Astronomical Book, also known as the Book of Luminaries, the Book of Dreams, and the Epistle of Enoch. Each of these sections unveils profound themes that echo and yet stand apart from those found in the Hebrew Scriptures. Many of the book's themes resonate with the moral aspirations and existential questions of the Old Testament. Yet, it also contains concepts and narratives that are entirely unique, strange and mysterious, even by the standards of ancient religious texts. The earliest surviving scrolls of the Book of Enoch date back to between the 3rd and 1st centuries BCE. However, the source of its material and the identity of its original authors remain deeply uncertain, adding to the intrigue of this ancient text. Although attributed to Enoch, the question of authorship remains unresolved. Just as scholars have debated whether Moses personally wrote all the books attributed to him, or whether the prophet Isaiah penned every word of his book, the authorship of the Book of Enoch is similarly ambiguous. But Enoch himself is a figure of great fascination. His story, both mysterious and captivating, has intrigued readers for centuries. Enoch is introduced as the great-grandfather of Noah, the central figure of the flood narrative. According to biblical genealogies, Enoch is also the great-great-great-great-grandson of Adam and Eve. If we consider this lineage on its own terms, it means Enoch had as many as 62 other great-great-great-great-grandparents living in Adam and Eve's generation, a thought-provoking detail. Who were these other ancestors? What stories might they tell? These are questions that deepen the mystery surrounding Enoch's life and his connection to early humanity. Scholars believe that the Qumran community, a secretive sect often associated with the Essenes, held the Book of Enoch in particularly high regard. The Qumran sect lived in a secluded monastic-like community nestled in the Judean mountains, near the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. Evidence suggests that the Essenes were drawn to the Book of Enoch because of its profound and apocalyptic themes, ideas that mirrored their own spiritual concerns and worldview. One of the most intriguing sections of the Book of Enoch is found in chapters 85 to 90. This portion contains prophetic visions that many interpret as foretelling the rise and fall of various tribes and empires throughout history. Some readers even claim that these chapters prophesy the emergence of the Essenes themselves, the arrival of Jesus of Nazareth, and the formation of Christianity's 12 apostles. Such interpretations have fueled debates and fascination for centuries. It wasn't just the Essenes who revered the Book of Enoch. Many early Christian leaders and theologians also held the book in high regard. Church fathers like Tertullian, Justin Martyr, Origen, and Clement of Alexandria frequently quoted from the Book of Enoch, referring to it as though it were scripture. In their eyes, it was no less significant than other canonical texts. Given the respect it once commanded, one might wonder, what was it about the Book of Enoch that eventually led to its exclusion from the official biblical canon? Part of the answer lies in the content of the book itself. For example, the Book of Watchers, chapters 1 through 36, recounts a narrative that seems utterly unlike anything found in the canonical Bible. It describes interactions between human beings and otherworldly entities called Watchers, a group of angels who descended to earth. Some of these interactions were benevolent. The Watchers are said to have shared knowledge with humanity, helping early humans to cultivate crops, practice medicine, and develop healing techniques. These teachings played a significant role in the development of human civilization. However, the Watchers also introduced other, more controversial innovations. They taught humans metalworking, enabling the creation of weapons, and they introduced adornments like jewelry and makeup. These advancements, though transformative, came at a moral cost. The Watchers' actions blurred the boundaries between divine and human knowledge, raising profound ethical questions about the nature of progress and its consequences. The notion of off-planet beings interacting with humanity sets the Book of Enoch apart from other biblical texts. It suggests that angels, or perhaps extraterrestrial entities, played an active role in guiding the development of human society. While this concept may seem extraordinary, it is not unique to the Book of Enoch. Similar stories of divine beings imparting knowledge to humanity can be found in mythologies and spiritual traditions from cultures around the world. This parallel raises even more questions. Could these shared narratives point to a common ancient truth, or are they simply the product of humanity's collective imagination? The Book of Enoch challenges us to look beyond the surface of ancient texts, inviting us to consider deeper questions about our origins, our purpose, and the forces that have shaped our history. It is both a testament to the richness of ancient thought and a puzzle that continues to captivate readers to this day. Whatever one believes about its contents, the Book of Enoch remains an extraordinary window into the spiritual and intellectual life of the ancient world. In Native American mythology, as well as in the myths of the Mayans, Zulus, and Babylonians, we find recurring claims about humanity's prehistoric past. These cultures tell of an intervention, an event where beings from beyond Earth came to nurture the human race. They allegedly guided humanity into becoming a conscious, intelligent, and technologically capable species, even providing the foundations for civilization itself. This intriguing narrative, though largely preserved in the indigenous mythologies of cultures worldwide, appears to have been excluded from the theological frameworks of Jewish and Christian authorities. Why? Perhaps the acknowledgement of a broader, extraterrestrial family posed a challenge to the core tenets of those religious traditions. Among the lessons attributed to these otherworldly beings, often called the Watchers, one topic stands out prominently in the Book of Enoch: astronomy. This is particularly noteworthy because astronomy, or astrology, as it was often synonymous at the time, was not favorably regarded in Jewish scriptures like the Bible. And yet, The Book of Enoch boldly delves into this subject, offering details that set it apart from other Jewish texts. What makes this even more fascinating is the way the Book of Enoch finds striking parallels in global mythology. When we listen to the ancient stories of other civilizations, we hear the same recurring themes. Think of Mayan astronomy, which became a byword for sophistication. Think of the Egyptians or the Sumerians. Consider the Dogon people of West Africa, whose ancient knowledge of the Sirius star system continues to baffle modern scientists. The Book of Enoch describes cosmic phenomena that sound eerily advanced for its time. The moon's orbit around the Earth's revolution around the sun, the fact that the moon reflects the sun's light, the nature of eclipses, and even the lunar cycles. How did the writer of the Book of Enoch come to this knowledge? Was it through first-hand observation, altered states of consciousness? Were there visions, teachings from otherworldly beings, or perhaps even ancient textbooks? Or was it all of these combined? By the later chapters of the Book of Enoch, the text suggests that such knowledge came through a variety of means, some tangible, others more mysterious. Perhaps the most controversial claim in the Book of Enoch involves the abduction of human women by 200 watchers. The offspring of these unions are described as giants, beings referred to in the book of Genesis as the Nephilim. In Greek mythology, similar figures are known as the Titans. Across world mythologies, from Norse legends to Native American folklore, variations of this narrative persist, always pointing to a time when beings of immense size and power walked the earth. Jewish historian Josephus, writing in the 1st century CE, regarded this story not as myth, but as history. He even pointed to the existence of giants in his own time as tangible evidence of this ancient intervention. Josephus also noted that Greek legends had preserved a written tradition of similar events, which he linked back to Genesis 6. In Genesis 6, we find the story of the Watchers told in a fleeting, almost cryptic manner. There is no introduction, no detailed explanation, just a brief account of the sons of God coming to earth and producing offspring with human women. This brevity suggests that the writer of Genesis assumed his audience was already familiar with this tale, perhaps from sources like the Book of Enoch. However, the narrative of human abductions remains one of the most challenging aspects of the Book of Enoch for many readers. Was Enoch himself an abductee? In the chapters that describe his journey, we're told he was given a year's notice before being taken by the Watchers. If we turn to Genesis 5:24, it says, "Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away." The term God here is translated from Elohim, which means the powerful ones. In the context of the Book of Enoch, the Watchers are included among the Elohim, powerful beings within the biblical narrative. In Genesis 6, these same beings are described as the Bene Elohim, meaning sons of God, or a kind of Elohim. The Watchers, as depicted in the Book of Enoch, are thus a subset of the Elohim. This terminology aligns intriguingly with other ancient sources. If we dig deeper into the origin stories on which the Bible is partially based, such as the Sumerian texts, we encounter references to sky people or star people. Among these beings, 300 were reportedly stationed in the stars, which some interpret as ancient descriptions of space stations. These observers, as the Sumerians called them, bear a striking resemblance to the Watchers described in the Book of Enoch. Could this connection be a mere coincidence? The exclusion of the Book of Enoch from the biblical canon raises an important question. Why was it omitted? Many biblical scholars believe that the Hebrew stories of origins, underwent significant editing during the 6th century BCE. It was during this time that decisions were made to shape the narratives that would form the core of the Bible. Perhaps the inclusion of Enoch's more fantastical elements, abductions, giants, and celestial beings, was deemed too controversial or incompatible with the emerging religious framework. What remains undeniable, however, is that the Book of Enoch offers a unique and provocative perspective on humanity's ancient past. It challenges us to reconsider what we know about the origins of civilization, the nature of divine beings, and humanity's connection to the cosmos. Whether we view it as sacred scripture, mythology, or historical record, its impact continues to resonate across cultures and generations. Decisions made from the 2nd century onward fundamentally shaped what we now recognize as the New Testament. These decisions also forged a connection between the New Testament and the Hebrew Scriptures, creating the Christian Bible. Each of these choices was deeply rooted in a monotheistic worldview, a perspective that assumed humanity was alone in the universe. This outlook not only influenced the editing of Hebrew Scriptures to reflect monotheism, but also shaped what was included or excluded from the Christian canon. When ancient scholars encountered additional texts, such as the Book of Enoch, they faced a significant dilemma. These writings acknowledged other entities that hinted at advanced interplanetary or even interdimensional capabilities. In the language of the time, such accounts seemed to suggest the presence of too many gods, which was incompatible with monotheism. As a result, these texts were omitted from the canon. My book, Escaping from Eden, delves into these ancient editorial decisions, especially those made around the 6th century BCE, when the Hebrew canon underwent significant revision. While this editing may have resolved the theological issue of too many gods, it came at a cost. The conflation of God with these other entities that, when translated correctly, are clearly depicted in the Bible, obscured vital parts of the narrative. By pushing these accounts into the background, the editors created a misunderstanding about the nature of God in the Bible. As a result, humanity has often blamed God for actions and events that were, in reality, the work of non-human entities and their interactions with ancient humans. When we take a closer look at the Bible, we find that it is filled with references to these non-human beings. From the Nephilim to the Anakim, the Elohim to the Bene Elohim, the Sky Council, and even the one like a human being described in prophetic visions. All of these references hint at entities beyond the human experience. Yet, these strands of biblical tradition were deliberately set aside by the institutional Judaism and Christianity of the time. They were either ignored or downplayed, and texts like the Book of Enoch, which described these beings in vivid detail, were excluded entirely. The reason for this exclusion becomes clear when we consider the monotheistic worldview that dominated the canonization process. Acknowledging the existence of extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings would have challenged the foundations of monotheism. By eliminating these narratives, the editors maintained the simplicity of a single sovereign God and a universe populated solely by humans. But this raises pressing questions. Why was the narrative of ancient contact suppressed? What made the role of the Watchers in humanity's development so taboo? Why were stories of human abduction and hybridization preserved in the myths of other cultures worldwide, but removed from Judaism and Christianity? What purpose did this secrecy serve, and why was it necessary to silence these accounts? As we move further into the modern era, we seem to be entering a time when this veil of secrecy is slowly being lifted. Questions about ancient contact, hybridization, and the involvement of non-human entities in humanity's origins are no longer confined to the fringes of thought. They are beginning to resurface in both mainstream discussions and alternative historical research. Thank you for watching this exploration into the mysteries of the Bible and ancient human history. With the ever-changing algorithms, updates, and regulations on platforms like YouTube, videos like this may soon become harder to find. If you appreciate this kind of content and want to stay informed whenever we release new material, visit our official website at fifthkind.tv. There, you can sign up for our newsletters, read fascinating stories, and access exclusive content available on alternative platforms. Before you go, please don't forget to like and share this video. By doing so, you help ensure that this type of thought-provoking content remains available to others who may be searching for it. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you in the next video.